Anna Bahar from WAVA, Women Against Violence Against Women. If you can please come up and welcome them. In Canada, laws to protect women just sit on paper. They are theories that are not effectively implemented or followed by the criminal justice system. They serve no use for women if they are just words and not actions.
Violence against women and girls in BC, especially Indigenous women, is devastating our communities. We are devastated. We have had enough. The level of men's violence we are seeing is staggering. The level of neglect and abuse by the system that purports to deliver justice is pathetic.
Men are raping and killing women. The legal system is not doing anything about it.
Stop the rapes!
The criminal justice system is not exempt from misogynist, racist, classist beliefs. And until it acknowledges its own role in oppression, violence against women will not be taken seriously.
WAVA Rape Crisis Center has been in existence for 30 years, and we support over 180 women each year through the hospital, legal, and court systems. In tracking the experiences of women navigating these systems from the initial connection with the medical system through to the end of their time with the courts, we know that the realities of women achieving justice after a sexual assault have not altered since the 1990s. We continue to hear stories from women that they don't feel the criminal justice system reflects justice after sexualized violence. And we know that this is true for all forms of gendered violence. We are talking about men perpetrating rape, abuse, and murder. Where is the balance of victims' rights with offenders' rights? These are power-based crimes.
Imagine the devastation when you're told by a system that purports to deliver justice after you've been courageous and disclosed the violation that has been perpetrated against you, that your experience just does not make the cut. You are not an ideal victim and are deemed less credible and reliable in the courts. So why do we see this over and over again? The criminal justice system continues to perpetuate a misogynist, colonial, white supremacist, transphobic rape culture. How can the system say it offers justice when the women who are supposed to serve and protect are saying to women, why don't you just leave him?
Are you sure it wasn't just rough sex?
Why did you drink so much?
Rapists aren't bad people. Their needs just take over.
And those are quotes we've actually heard from the criminal justice system, by the way. So out of 327 women who reported to police through WAVA in 2012, only 34 of those women saw their case before the courts, and only 24 of them saw a conviction. These stats are in line with the national survey that was done in 1993. So why haven't the sexual assault law reforms for the 1990s led to any significant changes for survivors?
As a society, we do purport to believe that it's wrong to hurt women. That as women, we are entitled to equal rights, safety, and dignity for all women. That Canada is a world leader in the protection of women's rights and gender equality. We do have strong progressive legislation in the provisions of the Criminal Code of Canada. It draws attention to the potential harms of discriminatory beliefs and bias of rape myths in the courts, as well as all women's right to dignity, privacy, security, and the full protection and benefit of the law.
For decades, feminists and their allies fought hard for the 1990 sexual assault law reforms that highlight the importance of women's equality before the courts and focus acknowledging and working to address the systemic context of rape and sexual assault and violence. But in the laws to protect women just sit on paper. The criminal code is degendered and vulnerable to interpretation by the courts, with complete discretion and no transparency or explanation about their decisions and the laws that have been reformulated to conform to the realities of a violent culture in which we live. There is a huge discrepancy in the way different women are treated by a racist, colonial, ableist, classist, homophobic, transphobic system.
Judges, lawyers, police, and those in the ministry must dismantle the structures they uphold that prevent all women from accessing justice. When we have predominantly affluent, white, heterosexual, able-bodied older men running the systems that are meant to provide us with justice without understanding this culture of violence and their role in it, then they are cultivating and sustaining oppression. Instead of seeing violence as normal, we need the people who make up these systems to think about how power influences the reality of women's lives through legislation, investigations, prosecutions, convictions.
Most women, when contemplating accessing the criminal justice system, believe that they will get justice based on the democratic values that the Canadian federal government has us believing about Canada and the way we treat women. But this is not the reality that women actually face when engaging with the provincial system here in BC. They believe they should be believed when they report violence or the threat of violence or murder. But as we have continually seen, this is not the case. Hundreds of mothers, sisters, daughters, workers, and friends of Aboriginal women reported the missing and found out the way Canada really treats women. In Canada, laws to protect women just sit on paper.
We call on the criminal justice system to readily acknowledge these facts in cases of violence against women and fight for women's equality on every level.
We call on them to uphold the written laws and to apply them to the way they were intended to be applied, acknowledging the reality of sexism in our society.
We call on them to investigate their own biases and how they uphold the current violent culture.
We call on them to unlearn how they value all women.
We call on them to recognize the significance of the impact these processes have on women's lives and society as a whole.
We are united here today to demand that women have access to the justice that they deserve. The criminal justice system is failing women on all levels, from police to crown to judges. How many more women have to die before they put the laws that feminists fought hard for into action?
How many more men are going to be allowed to kill women before they put the laws that feminists fought hard for into action?
Thank you.